Yeah, because I think that if I remember correctly, or similar questions I've been asked in the past is like, what coloring's getting so much better. Like, why do you think that is? And it's like we were saying, like, oh, if I started out wanting to do that as a kid and I had the tools to practice it and do it, of course I'm going to be that much better when I'm 20 something than I was when I was 21 and I first touched Photoshop.
Computers were a lot more limited.
Sure. Yeah, but I started there with the limited, like, as far as even more so because I was like, oh, I don't want to make a shitty looking like I don't want to try this special effect or this highly rendered style, and I know I'm going to do it shitty. So so I kind of didn't dive right into that, and that made some people like get into it because they want to like, oh man, I'm going to make the shiniest fucking armor, and that's like why they wanted to color that thing. Like even when they're starting out, and like that's what and then they get really good at coloring that shiny armor faster than I would have, because I would have been like, I'm not really interested in figuring that out yet. But like also, I mean, when I mentioned, there was a sequential art program at the school I went to, and they had a coloring for comics class, and what was great, what I really appreciated about that class, and the way it was taught when I took it, was like he wouldn't let us do anything but flat colors for like a majority of that class. Because he was like, you're just gonna fuck it up.
It's all Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Like it's like everything is fucking like wax on, wax off. Why the fuck am I waxing these cars? And then you're fighting the guy and you're like, holy shit, he didn't fucking.
He didn't wax no cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So I mean, I don't know if my feelings on that come from how I was taught, or if that's just how I feel like that's how I would have been naturally. But and then too, to me, it's the storytelling parts that are the most interesting and fun parts of the job for me, and the decisions and stuff. And like I got a little better at rendering, but I'm way worse than most people.
How much of color theory do you think is taste? Like personal opinion.
A lot, because like I guess the simplest way to confirm that assumption is that like you could take a red and green complementary color scheme and it could look fucking terrible. Or you could take a red and green color scheme and make it look pretty great, and the difference is in like how that person implements it. And I think that stems a lot from that person's tastes, sensibilities. Yeah, because there's certain approaches that are more forgiving, so like they're going to be easier to use. And if you're struggling and you stumble across something that's just easy to use, you're liable to latch onto that. But eventually, ideally, you would grow out of that and move on to something else. And hopefully too, like, my tastes have evolved. I think they must be decent enough. They've served me okay, I guess. But then too, I hope that they'll have evolved and continue to evolve.
Well, there's certain there's ideas tied to colors.
Mm-hmm.
For right or for wrong.
Yeah, it doesn't come up often. But like every so often, a project, it's fun that like when a writer thinks as far down the line as color, and understands color, like when we get to like take those preconceptions and then play against them. And there's some things that's happened in like Wicked and Divine where we purposely leaned into what would like, oh, this has typically been a feminine color, and then turns out that was a little misleading, but on purpose, to obscure something in the story Kieran wasn't ready to reveal yet, kind of thing. So.
Yeah, so that's just playing with people's
the
audience's expectations.
Yeah, based off of some of these preconceived notions of what this color should be associated with that. I mean, yeah, like sometimes it makes me think of like there'll be times where I'm like, all right, a night scene, like I really want to come up with a different palette than I've used on that I've never used on a night scene before. When like I could probably just go like with a palette I've used a million times before and it'd be fine. But sometimes you just want it. Sometimes the easy palette or the easy color choice, like as far as the color meaning, is like the right way to go because it's not an impactful scene or whatever. But then a lot of times, I think most colorists are probably looking for interesting ways to use color.
I think where it becomes problematic is when and it's more likely for people who are making their name.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
When you will pick something strange or off-putting just to be noticed
For no
rather
reason,
than
yeah.
like
No good
with any intention.
Yeah, because it all should stem from, what does this do to tell the story or to help tell the story? And if literally there's no other reason than like, I just wanted it weird, that's usually not gonna, I don't know.
Don't fly on the golf course.
That's right.
Sort of a through line with what we've been talking about today is, coloring is a thing that like you're thinking about. I want to tell a story first. I don't quite know how I want to achieve this yet.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to figure out how to achieve it as I do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that the impulse to do it is what mattered more.
Yeah,
and pursuing that impulse mattered. And sort of then like finding ways to facilitate that and keep it alive, I think are what are the most important, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's tough. Like I'm actually not qualified to answer this at all because like I'm in a weird, and probably everyone goes through these ups and downs, but like I struggle more now with getting my work done, and I'm surely better than I used to be.
Yeah, sure.
So to me, then that says like, all right, it's not my ability that's holding me back. I get to this point now, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Do I really want to spend all this time behind the computer?
Yeah,
like
you
I don't
have
know.
so much
Right.
time
Like
in your life.
like this is purely on the physical side of things. Like I regret letting myself just sit at a desk for 10 years and letting like a lot of like then when I decided like I feel like shit, and I'm gonna correct this. It took me like a solid like 2 years of, and I did in 2015. I like did scale back on work specifically because I felt so awful. And anyway, so but the point being is like to demystify this, to let people know we're getting into it, like kind of what to look for, what to think about is like I mean I don't know. It's hard to say like don't spend 20 hours a day trying to break in. I mean, it's hard to say.
No, you should be armed with the knowledge that you might have to.
Yeah.
Which is the thing that I think is, I'm really interested in how people keep both their creativity alive, but also the things that keep it alive, how that relates to the work they still do.
Right, and then this is where you smash cut to the band.
Right, yeah.
But so my big plan now, I'm like, well, maybe I'll do this on the road. Maybe I'll try to be out on the road, go do this in other places, free myself up to see a little bit more.
Right, and that's what we were talking about with Steven. Why I've traveled so much has been, I couldn't have been a comic book artist 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I couldn't have sat alone in a room.
Mm-hmm. I didn't anticipate that when I wanted to do comics. I just didn't think it through, because there's a lot of goddamn time when it's just you in a room. And, that's not my favorite thing in the world, to be honest.
You're at the end of the day, you're going to be alone with a page.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And if you're not comfortable with that, and you can't become comfortable with that, and you can't set the conditions in your life to make you comfortable with that, like you're always going to struggle.
And another thing about that is, like it's been fine. I've done it for however many years now, since 2003, and so what is that, 14 years now, and it's been all right. But I think at this point, I'm like, maybe it's not all right anymore. Sure. Like things just kind of change. So I'm just, I don't know how. Like I'm curious to see. Like I'm gonna change up where I work and how I work, and see what that does to the work, to me wanting to work.
You're successful now, and I think you can say that with pride. Like a lot of people like to want to be ashamed of the fact that they do well or that they're achieving.
No, I mean, God, I wouldn't try so damn hard if I.
You would be showing off that van if you were embarrassed of your success.
Yeah. You got to color the shit out of the side of that van.
Yeah, I really do.
I want to talk about painting while we're recording this, though, because you had a really astute observation.
I don't think I want to be a painter. I almost look at it as like a hobby, like to work in color, or we also mentioned writing. And what we were talking about previously was like, how do you approach like learning a new skill? You can decide like, what medium you want to work in and what kind of brushes you need, and like you can read all these books on color theory, and I think in some ways I have a propensity to approach things that way, but I think what I'm actually going to do is just get some paint and fuck around a little while, and then maybe familiarize myself with it, and then maybe get into more like of an academic approach.
I don't know. For this business, I think it's probably more useful than.
Yeah, Brian Stelfreeze told me a long time ago at a portfolio review, your mistakes become your style. And I thought that was pretty profound.
I've heard that a lot too from him, and one of the things that I would add to that is that it's not just your mistakes that become your style, it's your choice to keep stuff in.
Yep.
You know, like you're constantly making choices. So like when you put something on the page and you make a mistake, like it's the piece you make with that mistake that becomes the style. Like it's, if you don't like it, you're gonna work to change it.
Yeah, I still think I'll probably, if I were to paint, I would probably still do it within the context of like commercial art, comics.
Yeah, sure.
I might not. I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Well, it's a useful tool that probably, I mean, he is a painter technically.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, his job, even when people in comics like tend to classify things as like, well, this guy's he's a painter, comics painter.
Yeah.
It's like he has modes of operation, But even flat colors, painting.
Absolutely.
You know.
Have you ever wanted to get into other forms of creativity?
You mean like go pick up a paintbrush?
Maybe draw, maybe do something, maybe write a comic.
I've read. I mean,
Are you listening to anything he just fucking said
No.
for the last hour?
I mean, I have written like little outlines and stuff just to scratch an itch. No, I mean, and I painted as a kid. I mean, but I don't know. Yeah. I get enough creative fulfillment out of my job that I'm not looking for. Maybe I'm not looking for something similar, and that's why the drone stuff.
I wouldn't mind getting into writing, because the appeal of like having a book that's just you, and being to a degree like failing or sinking or swimming on your own merit. But you were talking about being an auteur, being a cartoonist. Every comics person wants to be Frank Miller or who did Bone. One more, Jeff Smith. That's as high as you can go, or Chris Ware. You want to be that person. But a lot of artists try to write stuff, and it just ain't no good. I think the reason I've never written anything is it's analysis paralysis, like right from the get go, because I'm like, I'm not going to be as good as Neil Gaiman, so I'm not even going to try.
But you don't have to be as good as
No,
him.
you don't. But
And maybe you will be one day. It's okay to just be the best penciler.
Yeah.
Like there's no,
Right.
Yeah.
A friend of mine asked me who he does a bunch of he storyboards and does some fine art stuff and a bunch of stuff. Anyway, and we went to school together, and he was like, "Do you ever want to be anything more than just a colorist?" And I was like, "I don't. I mean,
Just a colorist.
Yeah.
It's like just
right. But I was like, like not at this point at least. And I was like, and I'm. It made me, but basically I didn't even really respond, but like his question made me realize because I've had some of that sometimes, like, I'm just a colorist. Like I've had those self-doubting thoughts as well, but it made me realize I'm like, like it's, like I should be happy, like you were saying, there's nothing, you should be happy with being the best penciler or whatever, like,
That's the end. I don't really know how to end that.
Oh, this is your
Yeah.
prize for
Yeah,
being on the
yeah.
show.
I'm trying to get that Werther's money.
Dude, I do love Warriors.
I'm sorry I made fun of you, Steven.
It's all good. I got my hater blockers.